The Place Inside with your host, Laurence GALIAN'S.
Welcome to The Place Inside. I am your host, Laurence GALIAN'S. Okay folks, here we go. We're continuing tonight our complete remote viewing course. Our textbook is the great George Noory's book entitled Worker in the Light. George Noory, of course, is the host of C2C or Coast to Coast AM. Listen to his show every night, Monday through Friday. He's on the air. He's incredible. Now, people ask me, why am I connecting metaphysics with aliens, UFOs, visitors, etc. Everything in this and every other universe is in a state of vibration. Scientists call it the electromagnetic spectrum. Another very real and very scientific way of putting it is that everything is light. The atoms in the chair you're sitting in are vibrating. When people speak of waves, these can be considered light or sound. Talking about George Noory, he's broadcasting on AM radio. AM is nothing but radio waves being manipulated in such a way that you can hear voices and music. It's called amplitude modulation. Science clearly talks about an electromagnetic spectrum of light, sound, vibration. Every spiritual book speaks about light, sound, and vibration. Are you beginning to see the connection I'm making here? My goal is to help people get out of fear, their feelings of helplessness in the face of alien encounters. But I also have an equal goal to help those who seek to make contact and or develop contact with beneficial ETs. Why? Because we know, just like in our neighborhood, there are some places and people that you need to protect yourself from, and other places and people you need to get to know better. But remote viewing, the reality is, in the world today, we need certain defense abilities from those who are against true personal sovereignty. But remote viewers can focus their energy and view other planets and dimensions. I mentioned in the past a friend of mine by the name of Yonda, who paints alien landscapes that she remote views. Without getting too scientific, both sound and light are the same thing. With our mantra, we are going to go to the very heart of that light I described in the last podcast. If you missed it, it is called something like Addendum to Remote Viewing. It's just a short podcast. I used it to touch base with you. A mantra is a word or set of words. It is a vibration of the cosmos. When you say your mantra, you are vibrating the universe. Alright, now you should have your mantra. What do you do next? You have to lift your karma from something soft and about which you probably have some doubt up to the ear of the Creator. You're essentially doing the same kind of exercise you would do in a workout at a gym, repeating sets for various muscles, and upping your ability to lift heavier weights. For your mantra, repeat it in sets of 3, many times a day, during the day. Just lifting a weight once doesn't do as much as reps do, repetitions. Saying your mantra once and leaving it alone doesn't do as much as letting it work through your karmic system. In different religious services, you will see that certain prayers are repeated over and over again so that they can work their way into your consciousness. Only when the prayer has reached the consciousness core, the core of your being, does it begin to work its power. And prayer is a very powerful thing. And one way to add add to the power of the mantra is by singing it or chanting it. If you can do this, even playing a drum along with your chanting of the mantra. But if you do it with joy and tears of happiness, as much emotion as possible, this will increase the deliverance power of the mantra into your core. Now, as your repetitions increase, the saying of your mantra will begin to transform you into a spiritual conduit. You are contacting the universe, contacting the Creator. And don't be afraid of making contact too often. The Creator is happy to hear from you. You are a terrestrial calling home on a karmic cell phone. So now we have to add breath. I know you've been doing this your whole life in some fashion. You're alive. But do you really know how to breathe? How many people, smokers included, only walk around taking shallow breaths and not thinking about how much air they're bringing in? They are not thinking about how much used up air they're expelling either. If you inhale shallow breaths and exhale shallow breaths, or even hold your breath because you're too otherwise preoccupied with something, then the net result is a buildup of used air. Think of it this way. Air you inhale is good air. Obviously, the cleaner the environment, the cleaner the air. But learning how to breathe in a healthy way works no matter where you are. The premise is still that inhaled air is healthy. Now, I have studied something called radix. Radix is a form of Neo-Reichian work from Wilhelm Reich, and we work at the beginning with the breath. If you lay down, try this experiment. Lay down on the floor or on your bed and put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly and start to breathe. Notice if either hand is moving. If neither hand is moving very much. Now, some people will find that their bellies will expand when they inhale, and some people will find that their chest expands when they inhale. Ideally, what you want to get going is first, as you inhale, as you begin the inhale, inflate your stomach, okay? Bring the air into your stomach, and then continuing up, bring it into your chest. Feel your chest expanding, okay? And then you completely inhale the air. So again, a full inhalation is first the stomach expands and then the chest expands. Now, some of you may have real big problems with this because Reich talked about something called muscular armoring, how we actually, with our neuroses, we put ourselves in kind of chastity belts or chains so that we cannot move our stomachs or our chests. It's amazing, and you need to get to work on this right away. I'll give you more tips as we go along. Now, working on this principle, you should purge your system of what's unhealthy and bathe your system in what is healthy. Translated into breathing patterns, it means that you should inhale a lot of air. Most people do not inhale a sufficient amount of air. In other words, it means taking deep breaths and expelling all the used air out of your lungs. Sounds simple, right? But 90% of us don't do it. You have to learn how to do it. For some Eastern religious practices, children are taught from an early age how to breathe correctly so that by the time they connect with the universe, there is no question that healthy breathing is moving them along. I have also been initiated into a mystical system called Itlach Yolu from the Middle East, and this is a mostly unknown system. The present-day master of this, his name is Dr. Nevit Ergin, and those of you who are familiar with the poetry of the Sufi poet Rumi know that Dr. Ergin is one of the world's finest translators of the poet Rumi. Now, in Itlach Yolu, we work with the breath. The breath is absolutely essential if you want enlightenment, if you want want to make a connection with everything in the universe or something specific regarding remote viewing, you need to be breathing deeply. Ask yourself, do you take shallow breaths as a rule? Do you hold your breath for a little bit? Some people who are very nervous tend to hold their breath, and they actually think that it is protecting them in some way to stiffen up their bodies. This is Reichian education. This is what Wilhelm Reich talked about, the body armoring. People think that if they can make their muscles strong and tight and stiff and hard, that this way no one can hurt them, no one can make them cry, and so forth and so on. Well, we need to relax these muscles, and through deep breathing, the ways I'm going to teach you, you are going to be able to do this. And another added benefit of this is that this will help enormously if any of you have anxiety or stress problems. Always remember to breathe. Always remember, no matter what situation you're in, especially if you're in a difficult situation, breathe deeply. Now, once you gain control of your breathing, you can integrate it with your mantra to get a powerful meditative shot, as George Noory says. Here's the simple exercise, the point of which is to make you aware of your breathing so that you can transform it to give you more oxygen than you normally receive and prepare you to visualize the nature of the air that's filling your lungs. Begin by recognizing how you breathe, shallow or haltingly. Some people breathe in little sips of air. Next, at specific times during the day, practice taking very deep breaths. Learn what it feels like to fill your lungs with air completely without trying to strain any muscles. Gradually take in as much air as possible and then completely expel it. This is another teaching of Wilhelm Reich, that people do not fully expel the air that is in them. So when you exhale, what you should try to do is exhale and then see if you can push a little more air out of your lungs. And I bet you that you still have a little air still in there that you can expel. Learn how to inhale fully and exhale fully. Even in your first practice session, sitting in front of your computer or behind the wheel of your car, try to notice how much more comfortable it makes you feel to take in lots of air. All that oxygen is good for you. Also, notice how you feel when you expel as much air as possible from your lungs. Relax. Air is free and there's a whole lot of it. So let it go out of your body because your next breath will take in a whole lot more. Next, now that you're getting used to the feel of completely expanded belly and lungs, a nice chest full of air, set aside a time during the day to do regular breathing visualization exercises. Now, when I mention the word exercises, it always reminds something that Robert Anton Wilson told me once, that he puts all these practices and exercises into his books, and he says just about nobody does them. That's a big problem we have. People love to read about books and fantasize about what they would like to become or be, but then somehow, some way, they don't have 5 minutes a day to do a little practice. And you gotta stop that. Make appointments with yourself to observe your breathing exercise times. Since breathing is something we do naturally, it may seem so strange to do breathing exercises at specific times of the day that you might overlook, but make a specific appointment with yourself. Pencil it in. Say that at 8 o'clock every morning you will spend 5 to 15 minutes doing nothing but deep breathing exercise. Set another appointment for just after lunch every day. Make another appointment for after dinner. And if you're standing up, I will give you a little secret from Radix. Do not keep your knees locked, okay? Just relax your knees just a tiny bit so that they are not locked and stiff in place, okay? You want to have just a little bounce to them. Not enough so that anyone can notice, but you'll feel you can pull your legs up real straight and then just release it a little bit so that there is a slight give in your knees, okay? This will help tremendously with this work. Now, just your morning exercise alone will make you sharper for the early morning hours. See, sometimes you need to talk to your subconscious. You need to talk to yourself and tell yourself, what good is this going to do? Well, tell yourself that you're going to be a lot quicker. You're going to be able to speak more clearly, more lucidly, more intelligently when you're at work or wherever you're going. Now, when you've spent a few weeks getting used to your breathing exercise appointments, try to expand them to other parts of the day. In fact, focus on your breathing to increase your air intake whenever you can. Breathe deeply when you're behind the wheel or riding a commuter train to work. Practice breathing when you find yourself watching TV at any time. When you're listening to George Noory on C2C. Practice when you're in front of your computer or reading a newspaper or a book. We want you to get into the habit of constantly taking in deep breaths and full exhalations. Practice, okay? In fact, practice as much as you can so that deep breathing becomes second nature and helps oxygenate you in all of your activities. As deep breathing becomes second nature, you should start visualizing exactly what the air that you're breathing looks like. Think of the air you're inhaling as pure, white, and shiny. It's as clean as fresh laundry. Picture the brightness of the air as you breathe in. Imagine that your lungs and your belly, the dantian, are filled with a pure, white atmosphere. That's the oxygen that's going into your lungs and then into your bloodstream and being carried to all parts and cells of your body. Imagine that air filling your brain with fresh oxygen, reviving tired cells and restoring your mental alertness. The entire process restores you, cleanses you. The more air you take in, the greater the cleansing effect. This is your exercise. Now that you are inhaling the true light, the opalescent, pearlescent, white light that we spoke about in our short little addendum to the first podcast about remote viewing. This is the Gnostic light. Also think of white butterfly wings. You are halfway there. Now, warning, do not skip over my instructions for the type of light I want you to see. Ordinary light, like from a light bulb, is only the barest simulation of the true light. This is the light all true mystics see. Read about some initiate's awakening? What does the guru say, or the saint, the sheikh, the Evliya master always say? I saw the light. So, you've inhaled. But now I'm going to tell you something that is counterintuitive. Many teachers, actually some of them are good teachers, but they will tell you to exhale dark light. Even a few good teachers will tell you to exhale noxious foul air. However, the masters of the most secret teachings from Tibet will tell you to exhale more white light, more of the true opalescent, pearlescent, shining, living light. How can that be? It is because of this. Remember when I told you a long time ago, there is no reality except the ultimate reality? Remember when I said that all the universes are in vibration? Remember how Pythagoras could actually hear the planets rotating. He called it the music of the spheres. Well, the same applies to you. You require a bit of tuning up, of course, but you are vibrating nonetheless. The song your being is playing may be a little out of tune, but you are part of the vibrational, organic, living light. Put another way, you are the sound of the Creator. You are the shining reflection of the Creator. When you exhale white, organic light, you are exhaling a blessing for the world. Yes, you. Stop thinking of yourself as no good or defective or powerless or poor. Think of yourself as you're walking down the street as pouring forth blessings upon the world. Now, one last thing. Why are we also talking about karma? When the strings of karma are cut, each student student develops a particular ability according to his own psychophysical makeup. One man or woman might be able to see 6 months into the future. Another can heal various illnesses with his or her touch. There are no rules that govern this gift. It is up to the will of heaven. Now, those fortunates that sever the last thread, what they do is they center the dantian. Remember, that is the area around your belly button, and what you want to do is kind of tie to the dantian and send their yang energy, send your yang energy down to meet the yin energy that flows into your body through the perineum. For those of you who don't know what the perineum is, it is that space between your genitals and your anus, okay? Now that is where the yin energy flows into the body, through the perineum. After a time, the two energies rise together as lovers. The student yogi then seizes them by force of will and squeezes them into the vestibule of his or her dantian, where they coexist as, get this, Tai Chi, the supreme ultimate. Also, Yoga Nidra, which I've talked to you about, can help develop this ability. That is why you must order one of the Yoga Nidra CDs that I recommended. Remember, I make no money from this. Now, what I gave you tonight may seem simple to you, but if you avoid it at your own peril, because we're starting with a foundation, and you know if you don't have a foundation, the building is not going to stand. So, if you want to be doing the remote viewing, if you really want it, you got to do the work. You got to do the breathing, the visualization, everything else that I've been talking to you about. We'll talk some more about karma and so on. This ends our transmission. We will be in contact soon.